Hello security gurus, welcome to this new lecture. In this lecture we are going to talk about security architecture and design review process, and we will understand why shall we learn this process. So let's jump into the action. Security architecture and review process is used for evaluating and improving the security of a system, an application, or a network by considering its design, implementation, and deployment processes. So, in order to perform a security architecture and review, as a security engineer, we will have to review the current processes related to application designing, application deployment, application implementation process. Once these processes are reviewed from the security perspective, we are able to identify the possible threats that can cause harm to the system or the application, and we can recommend security controls to safeguard the system against those threats. So the goal of the security architecture and design review process is to make sure that system or application is secure and resilient against the potential security threats and vulnerabilities. Now, the security architecture and review process typically includes a review of the design specifications and architecture diagrams. So, project stakeholders need to share the design specifications and architecture diagrams with the security architect or the security engineer in order for the security engineer to perform security architecture review process effectively. Then a threat modeling process is performed to identify potential security threats and vulnerabilities. Then a review of design specifications and architecture diagrams is performed. Once this is done, then evaluation of security controls and countermeasures is performed. The potential design weaknesses are identified. Then a final report including the documentation of findings and recommendations is created, and the goal is to enhance the overall security of the system. Hence, security review is an important step in the software development lifecycle and should be conducted on a regular basis to ensure that the system remains secure overall and any changes being made in the system are reviewed and any threats are addressed. Now, let's see in detail the security architecture and design review steps. The first step is planning and preparation, where the scope and objectives of the review are documented. The security team that is going to perform security architecture and review is identified. The timeline of the process is established and the expectations are set with the stakeholders. It also includes obtaining all the relevant documentation related to the project, which can include design specifications, architecture diagrams, any existing threat models. So, this information or documentation is provided by the project stakeholders to the security team that is performing the security architecture and design review process. The next step is to perform the threat modeling. During the threat modeling, the potential security threats and vulnerabilities that a system may face are identified. It is also accompanied by creating a checklist where all the inputs given by the project stakeholders are documented along with other questions that we as a security team should ask to the project stakeholders. We will see that in practical as well, how to create the security architecture review checklist and how to perform threat modeling. Next is the architecture implementation review is performed, where the implementation of existing security controls is reviewed by the security team and the countermeasures are suggested to ensure that they are properly implemented if not already done. Next is deployment review, where The deployment process of the system is reviewed to make sure that it is secure. After that, the final reporting and recommendation is done, where all the findings or the security vulnerabilities or security misconfigurations are reported, and a walkthrough is provided to the project stakeholders. Finally, a follow-up is also set up, where it is made sure that the recommendations provided are being implemented in the system. And also regular follow-up reviews are performed to make sure that security controls are being implemented along with other changes that are being made in the system. Now these steps are very generic and are given to make you understand how a security architecture and design review process can be done. But in real life, the security architecture and design review process is concisely done. It contains less number of steps, and we will see a real life example of security architecture and design review in the next lecture, where we will see how the security teams work with project stakeholders to gather the requirements to perform the threat modeling to generate the final report and provide a walkthrough of the final report. So stay tuned. It's going to be really interesting. Thanks for watching. See you in the next lecture.